Hi everyone, my name is Bartlett, and this video is basically going to be an overview of my computer science capstone project. It's not going to be anything super technical. I just wanted to kind of give an overview of what I built and just give a demo of it too. Alright, so let's get started. My application is an iOS application that's called SimpleSheet. And SimpleSheet is basically a user finance productivity tool. So it gives the user, they can log in, right? They can create an account, then they can log in and customize their personal categories and then enter transactions into those categories for income and expense. And then the application will give them the net money for the current month. So they can easily track their finances a little bit better. Alright, so let's talk about my infrastructure a little bit. I created a server at my home. It's just running on an HP mini tower. I installed Ubuntu 14.04 server. And on the server I configured what's called parse server. And this is a non-relational database system that is a Node.js app, so it runs on the Node.js runtime engine. It communicates with MongoDB, so that's the database that it's using as its backend, and its front end for talking to the internet, it's using Express Web Server, which is also a Node.js application. So I got that all configured, and I also had to configure my network, do some port forwarding, so I could SSH into my server to remotely configure it from anywhere in the world, and then also so my application running on an iPhone can also communicate to my server from anywhere in the world via the internet, and of course talking through my home router to my server. My administration was all done and development was all done from my MacBook Pro. I used Xcode, IDE, I used SSH to administer the server, and then I also used Safari to connect to Parse Dashboard. And Parse Dashboard is basically just a front-end visual web interface for viewing what's in the database and also manipulating what's in the database. So actually, let's go ahead and take a look at what Parse Dashboard looks like. So to do that, we're going to need to open up Terminal, and we're going to need to SSH into Parse Server. And just so you're aware, I added a local DNS entry on my computer, so it knows what that address is, and that's not a public DNS address. So we connect to the server via SSH, so now we're connected to the server. And I created a script because Parse Dashboard, I don't have it running all the time, so I created a script that will just start it. So it's just in my command history, and I just named it Start Parse Dashboard. So if we run that, now it says Parse Dashboard is available. So now if we go to Safari, you can see here I tried to open this previously and it couldn't connect. And that's because I didn't have the server application running. But now if we try again, we can connect. So here is my SimpleSheet app within Parse Dashboard. And on the left-hand side here, you can see in the browser section that each one of these is actually referred to as a class. And that is comparable to a table in like a SQL database. This is a schemaless database, so you don't have to predefine any of your classes and what they're going to contain. You can just create the class and tell it what to store, and it will automatically create it. So the way I chose to do it, my users have their username, and well, let's take a look at this first. So in the user class, you can see I have some test users here, and this is the one that I've been using mainly to test with. So this got created whenever the user signed up, and then the first time they log in, it creates this class, and then it creates an entry in the database, in their class. And each each row here corresponds to a single month. So we can see here I have month name, it's June. And here's where all the month data gets stored. And here's where the user categories get stored. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So I wanted to make this dynamic, of course, for the categories. Since the users can create as many categories as they want, name them whatever they want, I didn't want to have a column in the database for each category if it's going to be completely different for every user. I chose to make this value for this key dynamic within its container. So basically it's just a big nested dictionary that holds expense categories, income categories, and within those categories it contains transactions, and within those transactions it contains the actual information of the transaction, which is like date, description, and amount. Alright, so now that we got that all kind of explained, I'm going to do a demo of the application. And I think to start out, I'm going to actually act like this is a brand new user. So let's go ahead and delete all these rows. Let's clean up the database real quick. So I'm going to be simulating creating a new user completely. So to delete this class, parse has good safeties in, so you have to delete every row before you can delete the class. So that class is gone now, and I'm also going to delete, I'm just going to delete all these users because they're all just test users anyways, so delete all rows. Okay, so now we don't have users, we have one session. This session class provides tokens for logins, and I'll show you what that means here in a little bit too. Okay, so now we basically have a completely clean database to work with. We have 0 sessions, we have 0 users, and we don't have any of the user classes I was talking about where the actual data is stored per user. Okay, so now let's open up our simulator. So I already have this running. Let me just put this over here. Alright, so right now, if I try to log in with my old account that I just deleted, should get in there. Okay, so there was a problem. It just went and talked to the server, and it got back this reply that there was an invalid username and password, which makes sense because we just deleted that user account. So what we need to do is we need to sign up, and we will go ahead and enter this information in. And of course, if you're doing this on a real device, you'd have the keyboard that pops up. Okay, so here, this form actually validates everything. So it's going to validate this email address format. If it's not in a valid email address format, it will notify you and not let you submit the form. It will also validate the username because it has to be letters and numbers only, and that's because parse doesn't allow you to create a class without anything other than letters and numbers. So that's why I chose to do that. Password can be pretty much anything, so just using a simple one. So I signed up, and now if we refresh our dashboard, we will see here that we now have a user account created. So that sent that information to parse server. It created an account with that email address with the username that we specified. And here's an interesting part. We have an email verified, and that's set to false right now, and that's what it says over here. So it says, check your email for a validation link. You must verify your email to log in. So, okay, so let's go back to the main page and let's just try to log in and see what happens. So it actually knows that the user account was created, but it found that the user email is not verified. So obviously we need to follow those instructions, and we need to go validate our email. So let me do that. Let me open up my Gmail. And what's interesting about this, so here's the email. And I actually have the capability of customizing a nice HTML format for this, so it could, look all pretty. I haven't got around to that. It's not crucial for this. Functionality is there though. So basically it's saying, hey, you're being asked to confirm the email address for this email address to use with SimpleSheet. So you click to confirm it. And if you actually look at this, this is my server IP address. And it's sending my username as a variable and saying, yeah, it's verified. Cool. So we got that response in the browser, and this is something that can be customized as well. So now, again, this is false. Now if we refresh again, we click that link in our email and verified it. Now it's true. Now we should be able to log in. Perfect. So we were able to log in, and what happened was, if you look over here still, we haven't refreshed the page. The user class has not been created yet, obviously, because they never logged in. So now if we refresh the page, now we can see the class got created, and within that class, the first month object got created in the database. And this was based off of the user categories that were stored in my application, just some starter categories. And so what we can do now, let's take a look at what we can do with that. All right, so this is the home page. And you'll notice kind of right off, it has the month name listed, and then the net money. The net money is 0 because obviously this is a fresh account and no transactions have been entered into it yet. So what we can do, we probably want to add some categories. So right now, if we look at the overview, these are the pre-built categories. And the overview just gives you exactly that, an overview of all your categories. So if you had more income categories, it would show those. You can add more expense categories, but it basically just shows the total of that category. And then also down here, it gives you the total income, total expense, and then what your net money is based on that calculation. So let's go ahead and add a category. So this is the add category screen. And what we can do, let's go ahead and add one for me. Let's say Sayer. And we want that to be an income category. Submit. So we get that animation. I'm giving some user feedback saying that it was successfully submitted. So now if we go and try to record an income transaction, we can say, okay, I got $50.59 from, I don't know, pop cans, whatever. And we can select that category, since it shows up here now, and submit it. Now, every time you submit a transaction or anytime you add a category, it also gets saved to the database. So if we refresh this, we can look at that data stored here. It's kind of ugly to look at because it's in this JSON format, but if we scroll down here, we can see, sure enough, Sayer, transaction entry 1, here's the description, pop cans, and then the amount was $50.59. And then also, if you look at the user categories, you'll see that that one was added under the income. Okay, so now I'm going to load a bunch of transactions into this application. I'm probably going to fast forward this so you don't have to just sit here and watch me, but basically what I'm doing is I'm just simulating a user actually using this application, and then I want to be able to show you what the overview and the transactions look like with transactions actually loaded in the application. I'm actually going to add a couple more categories too, so bear with me. All right, so I added some categories, and now I'm going to go ahead and start adding some transactions into those categories. Okay, so I went ahead and added a bunch of transactions to the categories. So now we can actually take a look at our overview and kind of see where we're at for the month. So we can see, okay, well, miscellaneous, we've gotten $5, we've got net income, my wife's got net income, and then we can look in our expense categories and see the total for each one of those. And if you notice here, all of the categories that we created just dynamically show up here. Then on our totals, that gives us our total income, total expense, and the difference of that, of course, which is our net money for the month. So that's a nice way to just kind of quickly look at your categories and see how much is in each one. So now we can go ahead and take a look at our transactions. Now transactions are sorted by date and time. Here it's just displaying the date, but in the back end, there's actually a timestamp that's associated with it as well. So that's how we can sort the transactions from all categories into a single list by date and time. So if you notice here, it shows the description, it shows the date, and then it shows the category. Green is for income, obviously, and red's an expense. It's just a nice visual way to kind of look through here, especially if you're trying to remember if you forgot to put something in, because generally the way users should be using this app is they purchase something, they should just open up the app and then record the transaction. If you forget to, or if you want to do it later, it's just nice to come back and be like, oh, did I put that in? I know it was yesterday. Looks like I did, because there's not an entry for that day yesterday, or whatever, or if you just want to review and take a look at your running log of transactions. So I think that's pretty much it for showing the functionality of the application and how a user might use it in their daily life. I got a couple more features that I want to show, and then we'll be finished. So the user can obviously, or should have, the option to sign out, and they do. So first, before we do that, let's take a look over here. If we look at we're in our session class now, and if you look at the user here, it's got this token for saying that the user is logged in. So, and it was also created with action, login, auth provider, password. So basically, this was authenticated with username and password, but this user is actually linked, so you can click this and it'll take you to the user class and show you, it's like, oh hey, like it's actually filtering automatically on this user. Even though it's the only one in there, if there's multiple ones, it would just take you directly to that one. So I just wanted to show that that session is active right now because we are still logged into the application. So if we sign out, it will prompt us, and we just confirm by tapping yes. And then if we come over here and refresh again, we will see that that user token session is no longer here. So it gets removed once the user signs out. So that means they are no longer authenticated. All right, so now I want to demonstrate what happens when the month rolls over. So to do that, again, you can come in here and manipulate these values too, which is okay for testing. So to simulate that, the application knows what the current month is, and that's how it created this. So if we just rename this, it's doing all the queries off of this month name key value. So let's act like we actually created that month and we stored all those transactions in May. again, if we hover over this, you can see all of our data is in there. And all the transactions that we entered. Also, all of the custom user categories that we added. So we added a couple under income, one for me, Sayer, and my wife, Jenna, and then also we added a few expense categories, and they're stored there as well. So now, this isn't the same case as before. The user has logged in, the user has a class, and they also have a month object in the database. So now what the application will do, it will look at, on login, it's going to say, hey, the current month is June. Is there a June month in the database? If there isn't, it will create one. And since there isn't, when it creates one, it takes a look and pulls the last modified month, which the reason I did last modified and not just previous is in case a user happens to skip a few months of using the application for whatever reason, it would always just work to check the last updated one, and then it will pull the user categories from that month to construct the new object. So let's take a look and see if it works. Let's go ahead and log in with our username and password. And there you go. So now it created a new month object, again June, because that is the current month. We just renamed that into May to simulate this. There are no transactions, but if we go to our overview and check, there are all of those categories that we created. So we have Sayer, we have Jenna, and we have all these other various ones that we created. That way the user doesn't have to regenerate those. And then also, if we come over here to our parse dashboard, we can actually view that by refreshing. So now we have 2 entries in the database. Now whenever we make updates here, it's only going to be updating this object because its month key currently is June 17th. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for this demonstration that I wanted to show you. I definitely had a great time building this application. I learned a lot, and I plan to keep refining my code and eventually put this into production for real on the App Store. Of course, that will require me to host a real server probably and not just have one at my house because that's not very sustainable. So I got a lot of work to do for that, but again, it's just kind of a prototype, and it was definitely a really fun and a good experience. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.